All right, I got distracted immediately as I sent sent this in. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode. Hooray!
And the crowd goes mild.
Mild is to say the least. What we are back. It's another Thursday. That is 2 weeks from the last Thursday. And tonight we're going to talk about our Grandhattan Flash a year out. It's a little more than a year since it's first been cracked open. So we're cracking open the last two cans of it that we possess. I have seen at least two other cans in existence that are still sealed and refrigerated. Um,
You have to tell us about those mystical cans.
right? But we'll also take a quick look at the DNC and some of the things coming out of that, as well as talking about a really cool initiative that is happening at our old high school.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, but before we get into any of that, beer, what are you drinking? But I know what you're drinking this time.
Well, I am actually drinking today the Victory Pretzel. I'm just kidding. I'm just drinking Grandhattan Flash. This is
Before you get into that, I was not too happy with that pretzel beer that you.
what are you not?
I like their
I
fest beer better, and that's saying something because I don't really like their fest beer.
I despise their fest beer. I enjoy this beer.
Yeah.
It is it's it's good. 7.5% is pretty up there for a beer like this, so that's nice. It's fine.
Yeah,
It had worse pretzel beers
that's
too.
true.
I'll say that.
Okay, that's fair.
But now
Fair.
we're talking about a good beer in its style,
Yeah.
which is the barley wine,
Yeah.
or as it says on the label, orange and plum beer.
Really?
Yeah, we're coming in at a 10.7%
Okay, that
ABV.
is not true anymore.
When it was brewed over a year ago, it was going to come in at a 10.7. When it was canned, and I'm about to have this sip. It smells just as I remember, the nostalgia. Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah.
I am at the point with this beer and thinking about it where I really want to reach out to them and ask their willingness to share the recipe.
How did you do this?
Because it's something that I think I would like to revisit. You know, it's one of those beers that, like, obviously, you know, we're nowhere close to doing it on a level that they did, but oh my God, would I not down the road love to take another crack at it?
Yeah, like to be able to like sometime in the future, no matter what the avenue is, whether it's coming back with them or trying to get something on our own to this level, like this beer I could come back to like religiously. It's just one of those beers and like at an over 10% ABV, like
Dangerous.
it's crazy how dangerous it is. And now I don't know what the percentage is on this,
Yeah. But
but
it's tasty. It's still not boozy. You know, like you get like they tell
at
you to
all.
age your 120, right? Like your dogfish, and it just gets boozier and boozier, and it's just not an enjoyable experience. This
Hmm.
this lasted.
So
This
I would actually disagree. I would agree and disagree coming from the other direction to get to the same point of I likened this to 120 minute where you let it sit and it just gets rounder as it sits for me with 120 minute, except this was good straight away. With 120 minute, I let that sit longer. I'm like, damn, this is great. But
okay.
before
I'll revisit
that,
one. I guess I'll have to revisit 120.
you might have to just take the hit
That
and drop
sucks.
some 120
Ah,
one of these times. I will say, because remember, I was I guess not notorious. No one knew me at the time except you.
notorious to
But
me.
I was a notorious 120 hater at the time, right? And I remember we were at that bar that's like right off the like right past the airport, right past the hospital, going into like near Hitching Post. There's a little bar there that had a tap takeover of Dogfish Head, and they had 120-minute on tap.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I had it, and that was fresh 120. And I was like, I just don't like this. It's too boozy. It tastes like it tastes like you took like some cheap beer and then just added rubbing alcohol to it. That's what it tasted for me at the time. Now I don't think that anymore about like fresh 120 minute.
Right.
Although still I'm not a fan, like a huge fan of it. But let that sit, even for just a couple months. Love the mustache, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Doing some dastardly deeds over there.
Always dastardly deeds.
Yeah. But like you let that sit even for like 2 months, say, and like the flavor just gets rounder. I feel like the booziness actually goes down. It
Okay.
just ages well, as it says on the bottle. And like I feel like you stick ages well on this label and it's right at home. I
Yeah.
completely
The
love
only
this beer.
the only thing different I would have liked to see with this, for barrel and flow purposes, it's great. It's in a can. That's what it needed to be. I would have loved to see this either in like a 12 ounce or in a bottle. And I think the bottle would have been my preference. But great beer. I'm excited to be back into it. It's as delicious as it was, if not better. And it's like the week perfectly aligned to it for us to have it today, because it was hot this weekend, and then like the last couple of days have been
Just
fall like, and it's perfect.
relatively fall like.
It's exactly what I would want at this time of year. Is like I'm ready for heftier beers. This is like a great one to start off that type of
Right, because
desire.
regardless, we're going into Oktoberfest season. So that maltier, darker, a little heavier beer is kind of what you want. And obviously, barley wine's more of like a winter beer because it's more like this warmer, like heavier beer. But like the orange peel in this brightens it up to the point where like fall weather, like perfect for fall weather.
I gotta tell you about this Oktoberfest thing. I recently unlocked the Oktoberfest badge level 6, which means I've only had 30 beers in the Marzen or Fest beer style. And I call absolute bullshit.
I was like, so you've only checked in 30 beers.
I can imagine
Yeah,
myself at Oktoberfest's smash not putting anything in.
but so it's really interesting though that you say that because going to an Oktoberfest, unless you're traveling, I think to Oktoberfest in other areas that would have like a local Marzen or Fest beer on, you're gonna get like your three main. You're gonna get Spaten. You're gonna get um, uh, Hofbrau. You're gonna get what was the third one that's usually everywhere? Spaten, Hofbrau, and then there's a third one that I'm thinking of that I can't think that I'm not remembering at the moment. But like it's like one of those three at any given point at an Oktoberfest. And then like it's just whatever local beer decides to do an Oktoberfest. You know what I mean?
I agree. I think the one that's really well done. Obviously, you have the one in Reading. That's a really good one. But you have your regular players there. But Human Robot puts on an Oktoberfest down here that's pretty well stacked. I think by the
You
people
don't
that
say.
actually, yeah, like Dock Street will be there with which is one of the arguably better Oktoberfest in the Philly area. Obviously, Human Robot with theirs, but there's a lot of breweries that show up locally that have good
Okay.
Oktoberfests on draft, and it's it's actually like I think a free event. You walk into the event You don't. It's
Oh,
not a ticket
really?
to walk into the event. You have to buy your like tickets, right?
Yeah.
It's that same setup where like you need tickets to get the beers and everything like that. But even if you're not a beer drinker at the Liederkranz, I think you still have to buy a ticket, right?
I would say, yeah, there's like an entry fee.
Yeah.
Then
This
you go buy the tickets.
this is just
Right.
like that triangle area. The further side of it is open.
Yeah.
That's where everything's happening. Where they have like a little music hall, but then all of the brewers and then all of the like food tents are lined up on that one little strip, and you just have a gay old time.
Um, well, question that just came to mind since you mentioned that is, do you have a favorite, or what would you rank as the best Philly brewery Oktoberfest?
Okay, so I actually want to do this test this year, and I want to get one from every brewery that I know is going to have one. So I know Victory is going to have
Okay.
one. Human Robot has a very good one that's probably going to give Dock Street a run for its money. Dock Street has a really good one as well. I want to grab as many as I can, and I want to do a blind tasting on
I like
this
that. I like
because
that.
I think right now I'd still have to give it to Dock Street. They just make an incredible. I think it's a fest beer, but
Which is interesting. I don't like fest beers
normally.
versus a Marzen,
Mm-hmm.
but I'll have to see.
Yeah.
Lagers for Dock Street, like they definitely nail like their lagers,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
So I want to kind of transition back
Yeah.
to this guy, especially since I only have about half of this guy left, and this is my only
Yes.
beer for the night. Uh,
Got a sip.
so I want to transition back to it, and it's been a year plus. Like not only has the brew day gone, the canning day gone by, but also the festival has gone by. We're a year out. What? Where are? How are you feeling a year out from this? Like, what is your general like thoughts, feelings, desires about beer now that we're a year later?
Yeah. It's a good question. I feel like the way that this year has gone is like kind of like a silver lining year, and we didn't quite get on it the way we necessarily were wanting to in the beginning, but we're on it now. And we've discussed at length about the fact that it's not probably where we would be at had we collaborated and been back as part of Barrel and Flow this year. And so I'm feeling in a good place right now. Getting through that first brew day, I wouldn't call it disastrous,
Right.
but only because by some miracle we have something that won't kill you,
Yeah, it's
and it didn't
drinkable.
kill us. It didn't create a grenade, and it's drinkable.
Yeah, we,
So
we we were able to walk away from it and continue drinking. So
yeah, we think we'll see after a few more, but
right.
I think after all of that, the way I felt directly after that brew day, and the fact that we yet still had something to call a beer at the end of that was really it's really hopeful for me. I'm feeling really good about that because there were a lot of things, as we've discussed in lives past, that we can really work on and turn this into something that's going to get fun again. You know what I mean? I think obviously our first home brews that we did, like our very first individual home brews on the 1 gallons, I think it was more nervousness of getting into it, at least for me. And I know we've talked about that as well years ago. It was fun and cool to create the product, but that first go around, it was kind of like nerve wracking, double checking, triple checking, quadruple checking, and just being nervous. I think after this first time together, I'm really hopeful for this next time when we go out and we don't have to worry about half of the things that we worried about the first time, and
Right.
we could just focus on being efficient about it and making sure we create the best product possible and really see like where the recipe lies,
Mm.
and being able to go, okay, we can tweak this now, this recipe based on this because we know our process is good. So I'm like hopeful now to kind of get to that next step. Like I kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
Um, so I think it's looking up, to answer your question directly. I think it's looking up. Uh, I've yet to I've yet to say I don't want to be a part of the brewing of a brewery, which is the whole point of all this.
Right.
Is
That's a good.
do
That's
we
a good
actually
first
want to
step.
be a part of it? You know what I mean? So I've yet to say, this is not for me. Um, so I guess it's positive, right?
Right.
As long as we say that, it's a positive outlook.
Yeah. That's definitely a win. I think especially since you are of more of the like scientific and mathematical like mind, that is
Medical.
definitely mathematical. um,
Yeah.
it's definitely what's needed. It's definitely uh, because that is the area that I just don't have those like skills like sharpened, right? Um, and so I definitely rely on you, like to be that person. And I think we bring a really good balance, and I hope that ends up being like a very good descriptor of our beers going forward. I hope like balance is a really common word that describes what we do. So I'm really excited. I think as we're talking about a year out, being in a much different place. I think, as you said, it's a very good silver lining year. I think we're still trying, and I think we could define this as the happy accident year, like the happy accident era. I
Yeah.
think things aren't necessarily falling in place the way that we are hoping that they will, but they're pointing in a direction that I am happy with. We're entering, what looks to be a mentorship. We're entering some really cool connections that we weren't, you know, even aware were an option. And I think it all starts with us sitting down at the Pike, being like, "Yeah, we should do a podcast." And then
It's
going and doing it
crazy.
and like saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
there's no beer by us. Okay, cool. Well, what does that look like?" And then like, "Oh, here's this thing," and having people be like, "Yeah, but you should be in that." And we're like, "Oh, okay." And then we make that work, and then it doesn't, and it makes us finally, after all these years, take a second, look around, say, okay, where do we want to go from here? Like we've hit like really a first like roadblock. Um, which way do we go? And now we've started to see one of those like outlets. Um, it happens. An ocean. How all these things come to be this huge water mass. Like this is cool, and I'm really excited to see what we can do in the end of it.
Yeah, taking it back to the beginning is because I wasn't even thinking of it in that sense. I was kind of just only thinking of it from where we were last year at this point to right now in like the past 12 months. But you're right. I think it's even more encouraging to go back to the very beginning of us. Yeah, like you said, just sitting there like we should do a podcast, man. Like everyone wants to listen to us. And still it's like, does anyone want to listen to us? But like doing that has opened like the door into the industry really that we didn't know existed at the time. And just getting out there and doing this podcast for ourselves kind of like open the door or remove the curtain, whatever term you want to use, to see that, oh, like the community is there and willing to accept you if you want to be a part of it. Um, and it still is in many ways. And we are still looking to navigate and try to maybe like give ourselves, at least in our minds, and I think it's going to take us believing it more than anyone else believing it, really. Because I think we both kind of are similar in that sense, or as different as we are with other things.
Right.
I think we're both probably in that sense is like there are going to be 50, 100 other people that believe in what we're doing more than we believe in ourselves at a point first. So, like, I think having to kind of do it ourselves is really good for us. I know it's really good for me. Um, just speaking for myself, now we know what we need to do, and we also are aware and understand that you just go and do it, and then you just fix it, and
Right.
you get good by screwing up and fixing it. As long as you know what you did wrong, you can fix it, and that's really all it comes down to. It always comes back to me to like that whole everybody everybody has different levels of expertise, but
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, like no one actually has their shit together. Everyone's just trying to figure it out.
The
You know what I
biggest
mean? So
lesson of being an adult was growing up to realize everyone
yeah,
that looked like they had their shit together never did. They're
never,
all
never.
like flying by the seats of the pants, right? Like
Right.
it's
Varying
incredible.
degrees of faking it
Yeah,
to make it look like they have their shit together.
right. Like yeah, I meant to do that, right? It's I liken it to tennis really, you know. It's you go out there, it's anything, but like tennis is an easy one for us to understand because you don't go out and hit 5 forehands and determine if you have it or not.
Right.
You go out and hit hundreds of thousands of forehands to even start to feel confident.
It's true.
We're at a
And
very early stage.
yeah, that's a good analogy. I do agree with that. And I think it is one of those things like people might have a knack for brewing, but like then moving up to scale, into different settings, like everything's so different, everything's so case by case, depending on what you're doing, what you're trying to do, what system you're working with. It really is, like you said, it's like a confidence and comfortableness so that you can just let kind of yourself come through it, but you got to be able to be comfortable and confident with those basics first. And that's kind of where we're at is we're trying to, get the forehand, the low to high. We're trying to, not swing through a volley. We're trying to split step.
Right.
You
And
we're doing all of these things. And right now we're just thinking about those things. We're not actually just instinctively
mhm.
knowing how to do those things.
Once we reach the level of blacking out and just like making a beer and coming out on the other side and being like,
Let's not black out with that turkey burner, let me tell you.
right. But like when you come to the other side and you are like, wait, what just happened? Like, you ever have those like driving moments where you get to the location that you've been to a
Yeah,
thousand times and you're like, I know there was 10 stop signs, 3 red lights, a blind spot. How the hell did I make it here?
yeah. I turned left on Gerard. How in the world did I make it here?
Right. It's just like, and you get there and you just like, you instinctively just know it so well
Yeah,
that you're able to do it. And I think until you get there, like the best points of tennis I've ever played, I've finished the like point and been like, how did I end up at the net, right? And I think we'll eventually get there. I think the other part of this that I'm excited about for exactly what you kind of brought up, where for as much as we're different, there are things that we are alike on, and I think for very specific things we do get very hyperfixated and perfectionist about, and I think we are going to want to fine tune this, and I don't think anything's ever going to be good enough for us, and I think that's going to be something that helps drive us forward. I think we're always going to want this to be either a better production in terms of this could be more efficient or a better end product. I think no matter what, if we're happy with the end product, we're not going to be happy with how we got there right away. So I'm very excited to see how this continues to grow.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think we need to be in that sense where we don't want to always say, "Oh, we just made it. We just got there. We know what we're doing." But then also the balance, going back to balance, like you said, like the balance of being okay with the fact that it's not perfect
Yeah.
and not getting discouraged by that. And that's kind of what, to bring it back to your original question of where do we feel like we're at, like that's kind of where I had to be reminded and think about it for myself, is like really discouraging after that first brew night, like at the time, but realizing, I mean, okay, so the beer is bad or the beer doesn't work out, then what? Just do it again.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're not losing our license to brew over this, There's no consequences. Everyone's safe, everyone's healthy out of that.
And even if
It's
they
just,
took it, we
there's
would
no
just brew it. We would brew again anyways. Fuck them.
Yeah. You know what I mean? So you got to keep that perspective on things.
Yeah, I definitely. The balance was there that night. I could tell your frustration and your. I could tell your uncertainty on things, and one, it was late. Two, it was
Yeah.
just like, yeah, we got to this moment. Like it's here. We don't know. This is an obscure part of it. Like we still really don't know until like the end of the weekend. So I was
Yeah.
like, we got like a month to figure this out.
See,
Let's celebrate.
I appreciate that perspective and that foresight, I guess. Because out of the four of us, I think I was the only one that was really like that, like low in terms of like, and I think part of it was just like I was like, I had this plan, I thought it was gonna work or at least work out okay, and I thought a decision that I made messed things up, and at the time it's like, so what? You know what I mean? Or now it's like, so what? It's like at the time I was like, well, everything we did was for naught,
Right. I
but it's
think
that perspective.
for even what I said earlier, where like I need your mind in order to like get us to these places, because of your ability to your ability with math and science, right? But I think the other thing I took away from it was probably not the best idea to kind of just leave it all on your shoulders and your plate either. Like and now looking at it later, there's no one part of this between all of us that should rely on one particular person. Like they might lead, but it shouldn't be lead and sole responsible for it. So next time we go to do this, right? Maybe again you do take a look at this recipe, you figure out this is what it should look like, but we should all then take the time to be like, okay, cool, let's talk about this. What is going on here? And allow you to verbalize it, because even sometimes just saying out loud to somebody or having someone ask you a question to force you to say something out loud goes,
yeah,
oh wait,
yeah, no, 100% agree with that.
And that was our fault.
100% agree. I think we just learned a lot about teamwork. I think too, like a lot about, I think the way that we all handled the situation was great in the moment. Like I think all of that was great because it that whole day could have gone so much worse than it did for all the things that were happening.
Yeah,
and
no fire.
We kind of just weathered the storm, clearly, because once again, here we are with the beers. So
clearly
positive silver linings in all of this. Like you said, happy accident era. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
maybe that should be a shirt. Happy accident era. I like that.
And it's just Bob Ross with a bush, but he's drinking a beer.
Who?
Bob Ross.
Yes, yes,
Similar
yes.
happy little accident.
Yes, I love that. That's a great idea.
But it's an exploding bottle.
Oh, a happy accident. Uh, that's funny.
Anyway,
Let's pivot this. Let's talk about
yeah.
DNC. Now that we're a year out of this, we're so many years into this fuckery that we have called America, right? Uh,
Unfortunately.
um, have I guess the best place to start off is, have you been watching? What have you seen? What are your thoughts? Where are we at
Um,
as a Democratic Party, if you even align with the Democratic Party?
well, it's better than the Republican Party.
Right. Their party
Um,
doesn't even have music. Sorry.
their party doesn't have Lil Jon. Like, what are we?
They have Kid Rock. Who would you rather, Kid Rock or Little John? Easy answer.
Yeah, very easy answer actually. Yeah, it's still the better choice out of the two type of deal for sure. Um, but I still think like it's kind of a let's see what happens type of deal of whoever gets in is just one, I feel much more secure and safe in my life for 4 years than
Right.
the other.
Yeah.
And I think back and it's just like I'm not as overtly political person
Yeah.
and I'm not very politically literate either for that matter. Um, and yet like that really doesn't matter to me in this sense because of the very specific things that each candidate represents on a non-political basis. And I think it's one of those things where it's like from an actual political standpoint in terms of policies and structuring taxes maybe or doing these types of things, where to move money, where to create economy at, where to invest in certain industry here and there. You know, you can agree and disagree with anybody on that. And at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be very detrimental to me personally. What I do think is more detrimental to me personally is some of the overtly what's politicized today, but what isn't actually political
Right.
stuff, which is all of like the identity politics type stuff that isn't actually truly political and is more about uh rage baiting, you know, getting people like dividing people, being overtly racist, overtly sexist,
Right.
overtly transphobic, like these types of things
Yeah.
that can leak into policy. I say all that to say I am I am far more optimistic now than I was a few weeks ago. There just seems to be more energy there, and I do truly believe there is a large section of people who were going to vote against Biden just because he was old Biden.
I Yes.
So it's the energy thing for me, I
Yeah.
guess.
I Oh God. Today, out of all days, I decided to have this conversation. Because I'm trying to keep things quick. So, I am still hopeful. I actually do have more hope than I originally anticipated with this transition from one candidate to the other in such a short amount of time. More hopeful than I originally was. There are key things that have happened that worry me still. I do feel as if, it's easy target And this is the one that I don't think is actually that big of an issue anymore. I was worried that a switch this late in the game was a very easy attack from the right side to be like, look, they don't have their shit together, and you're expecting them to have their shit together to run a country, right? That doesn't even actually seem to be a fucking issue. So happy
No,
that's like dodge. That's a bullet
it's a
fucking
weird.
dodge.
It's a weird. It's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like nobody was worried about that. Like I was just like, okay, maybe I'm missing something, but I would have been attacking this a
No,
little
I
bit.
mean, I would definitely say that that kind of like highlights the fact that like campaigns, all of the stuff that we hear about, it's less about running a country and more about attacking the other side for specific things
Right.
that don't really matter in terms of how are you going to do the job. And this is just like from a 1,000 foot view, like no matter what side you're on of it, to see to not realize that is to kind of like be a slave to the propaganda and the
Mm-hmm.
machine of it.
What I will say is troublesome, and I think this is very
Okay.
indicative of why we haven't seen a woman president yet. Um, One of the key factors or like key areas I've heard, while listening to different things that Trump's actually doing better in, and as a like difference between other elections is the black male vote is swinging over towards Trump.
So there's an interesting discussion there
Yeah.
about sexism, but also kind of about where these polls are coming from
Oh,
too.
yeah. I think it was a Gallup poll.
Um,
No, it wasn't a Gallup
I
poll. Where
do,
was it? Don't.
I do think that generally it is overblown how right the black male vote leans. It is very important to point out that it leans further right than the black woman vote.
And we saw what happened when Kamala decided to speak with a bunch of black women on a Zoom call, right? And how much money gets raised and shit that gets done, right?
Well, I was watching a few videos from some of my favorite creators on YouTube, and they mentioned the fact that the thing that's really like creating this energy and the thing that's like kind of swinging the tide in many senses is like the black excellence crowd, or like what they call it, the black excellence brunch crowd. There's just like influential or wealthy black people who look at a Biden and go, is he any better than the overt racism? And in many respects, you can kind of argue in a sense whether he is or not. But there's no arguing with Kamala. She is, aside from any politics, aside from any policies, she is just an overtly better option for anyone who isn't a white guy in America. Just from a social safety net standpoint, from making sure that you can just go outside and not feel like there's all these people who are empowered by the person who is leading our country to just do away with you at any moment. And I think that's like a fear that a lot of people don't quite understand about Trump's first presidency.
Mm-hmm.
That would be even more amplified this time,
Oh my god, yeah.
off of the back of him losing the second time and the violence that that incited. And now, if he gets elected again, the validity that that gives to that crowd of people, it's just, we're playing with fire in that sense. And it doesn't really matter if I'll pay 2% more income tax for 4 years if it means that I'm safer in life. You know what I mean? Like, the minute things on either side of actual policy don't really compare to like the social propagandizing things that the Republican Party would do to get in if they were to get and take power. Um, and so it's kind of like we've talked about Project 2025 and
Mm-hmm.
the ideas that that pushes. None of it, like, besides overstepping like so many constitutional like ideals to get to get to the ends that it wants to meet. It's just a very and that whole idea is just a very radicalized ideal. And if we allow the other side to get into that, we could have some problems. So all that to say, the only thing I really look for in like these conventions is just some like entertainment that comes out of it.
Mm.
I don't I've never quite understood like the whole political fundraising and we need to get the hype going here and there to we need to get this rally going, you know what I mean? Like it to me to me it's less consequential now than it would have been 20 years ago, where 20 years ago we're arguing over specific issues that policy can be created on, and that's not the case right now. And we have to be honest with ourselves to say that that's not the case right now. And I'm honest in saying I don't care what the issue is, really. There's a
Yeah.
hard line in the sand, and I'm not willing to cross over that because I might slightly disagree with this really detailed policy that Kamala is pushing or might enact.
Yeah,
And
I remember with, Bush, I remember, Mitt Romney. I remember like the specific races for presidency. And I remember, like I had my issues with Bush, I can honestly say the other races between Obama and everything, like I wasn't like as opposed on something, right? I had never up until this point, and this is very young, right? Like we got to think what we saw like Bill Clinton forward, right? Like
pretty much, yeah.
that's not a lot. Um, um, I don't think it was ever as a battle for like the country's soul as Trump. Trump has really polarized America. And I think that is the big difference maker between, what could be so like set back and be like, I'm gonna vote this way, but like I'm not really like concerned in too much because I'm kind of like here in the middle and I'm not going to be, affected by a policy this way or that way. You're just kind of fucking me over in the middle regardless, right? um, and wanting to pay more attention to like local shit like that's actually where shit happens, unless something really crazy comes down from the top that dictates what my local community can do. It doesn't really like fuck with me. I think it became such more a polarizing option with Trump, and I think that's why it becomes such a like larger stake going forward. Is this person, it kind of emboldens people. It's frightening the what you think people might believe they can get away with now because of this person. Like we walk through this neighborhood and this neighborhood's kind of cool. It has this like younger vibe to it, but there is also those older people and the kids of those older people that have been born here, that have died here, that are going to continue to live here. And you can see the house with the Trump flags. They're not even just the one in particular, the many. And it's scary because I have to walk my dog at night.
Well, at least it's your dog, and your dog will fuck somebody up. If they step to you. No. I 100% agree. I think I do think still at the end of the day, it really, what, especially when we're talking about policy, it still does come down to, like you mentioned, the local government, making sure you get the people into your local government and your state government that represent you is
And
still
that's what
paramount.
terrifies me because it's Parker. Sorry, continue.
That's still paramount. And we don't have to worry about our governor because he got snubbed by some dude from Minnesota. But
I could go on about this topic forever.
yeah,
We have about like
we
10
have
minutes.
10 minutes. All right. I just want to say one last thing.
Got it.
I do agree with you that Trump himself is the polarizing figure that shifted this type of thing. I do think it was him in combination with the way social media and the internet has expanded in those Obama years, between the beginning of Obama and the end of Obama, the amount that we could be tapped into literally everything that happens around the country at a moment's notice, and the way that the media can now polarize everybody instead of just select groups of people in specific areas. It's now become the thing where like the media can polarize everyone at once in mass, and now you have this, let's he's just some like reality TV star, really, who was already rich. Now you bring him in to play this character, this villain, or in some cases like hero,
Yeah.
but like this villain figure that you can vilify, or anti-hero figure that you can prop up,
Yeah, so you just get a
and it's just
overly
feeding itself.
you get an oversaturated version of Reagan or Schwarzenegger.
Right, but like on a scale that's like it's just way more than like neither candidate is going to get anywhere close to all of the things that either side says they're going to get done in their 4 years, but it's about the idea behind each one that's now more important.
I'm excited
And
to have this I'm excited to have this conversation further with you in person
yes,
because there are some things that I think are very interesting that I just don't think we have time for today. In terms of what they say that they can get done and what actually gets done, and like even that
yeah,
tug and pull of things, because there was an interesting who was a better president, Obama and Biden, and who says what, even within the Democratic, like not even like getting outside of the Democratic Party, who says what and why is a very interesting
it is interesting.
conversation, and I can't wait to have that with you. But
But speaking of polarization,
oh my god, yeah, let's talk about polarization and something that seems objectively good, and how
yeah,
quickly it can be polarizing. This week, Reading High rolls out and announces that they have developed a program called the Knight's Keep, and essentially this would be a place that uh, that students experiencing homelessness are able to go to do their laundry, to do their homework, to take a shower, to cook some food. It's not meant for them to stay over. This is just a place that they can go to before school, after school, to just feel a little more confident during the school day. This was met with mostly really well received applause, but it was also in a very Berks County way received with, "Here's why this is fucking dumb." Um, I would also like to note that this is within the space that used to be a daycare at at the school, because it was
okay,
something that was
that's
needed too.
okay. We're
But
trying to figure out geographically where that was,
yeah,
just to okay.
but but that was also a wonderful program within itself, and that was always received with the same thing, like applause, and also like heavily criticized.
It was always a joke
Yeah,
to people.
exactly. So I brought this up to you, that you were aware of it. You weren't aware of the comments. I am still of the mind that a lot of the comments that I originally seen are gone. because Mark Detterline was having a I've got time moment and going to everybody and going off. And
I
half of
can see
those
that.
I don't even see Mark's response, and that was my indicator that some of these things aren't there anymore.
Well, one, just a wonderful full circle type of moments like that. Um, the fact that I did see his first comment about people are really hurt and really are unhappy with their own selves to be that angry about something like this. To be one, Alyssa showed me the post of Knight's Keep. I think it was just last night or 2 nights ago, whenever the post was last night, I think.
Yeah.
Um, and I thought it was good. I thought it was something that was really cool and, something that people always want. We need unique solutions to our community's problems. So the school district created a solution to a unique problem that's growing everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's obviously because it's growing everywhere, it's growing in Reading as well, right? Microcosms. So the facility looks beautiful. Love everything they put into it. And I didn't like take a look at comments because I don't know, I'm not a social media person. I was like, that's really cool. Moved on, right? So when you're like, oh, there's all these negative comments, I'm like, at first I went, oh, why? And then like 5 seconds later, or almost immediately, it was like, oh yeah, that's why. I'll bet you, I'll bet you $1 million that none of the people live in the city of Reading or even in the Reading school district for that matter.
Oh my god, one person was just like, "Oh, I see." So for Mark, right? And it goes, "Oh, I see that that you have a house in Laureldale. It's not like you know anything about what's going on in Reading." And I was like, "I'm not even gonna like step in here because
Yeah,
this would have
he
taken
got that.
two seconds more for the research to see who this person was." So anyway,
It's been on Facebook too for you to look at someone who's still like fairly young and in this age where we can go back to teenage years. I doubt he scrubbed like his entire
oh
life
no, you could
after.
go back a week. Everything that he posts is still a champion of Reading, and is
I was
still
say
like you don't even
he
have to go
never
that
hasn't
far.
he
And
never hasn't been that. You know what I mean?
yeah, so
So
some of these comments before we like dissect and finish up here, some of these comments over this place that overall serves good, no bad, right? Are there should be no such thing. Illegal shouldn't be getting housing. These kids should be housed or in foster care. Sounds like a neat idea until it isn't. They should have classes in life skills in place first. Trade classes, which is called fucking Votech. Um,
yep, we yeah, good
uh,
observation, man.
right. Who is going to clean up this area?
I
Who
think we we have D on the job.
these nuts? Who will police the area to make sure there isn't any drugs, etc. going on? Mind you, this is going on until 6 p.m. 6 p.m. I've been at practice longer than 6 p.m. Trust me, if they are asked to vacate this area and there's somebody, which I imagine there's somebody there then,
There's
it's
gonna be
not an
somebody
issue.
there. Yeah,
It's like
there's gonna
saying,
be
who's
somebody
going to
there.
police the school at night?
I don't know. There's police in the school during the day.
Um, looks like a great place to get high and commit some sexual assaults. It's only a matter of time before this place is in the news again. I hope they give drug tests and have metal detectors. One, the school does have metal detectors, so fuck off.
Yeah.
Two,
Two,
they metal
like,
detect the fucking music kid. Because we're the first, well, we were the first ones in the school, and then they would stop doing the metal detecting after first period. I digress.
it's strange.
Um,
It's
We're,
strange.
what are we at? Homelessness is a profitable business. The city of Reading is killing it. Even though only 0.6% of Reading is homeless, that's about 600 people. I think their math's off. uh, people that the city is constantly getting thousands and thousands of dollars for, yet we still have the same amount of homeless. I can't be the only one that is seeing this. What a scam. Yeah. And this is the same guy as the sexual assault person. So we already know the cognitive like ability and limits that this person has, right? I just want to get your thoughts and feelings on the negative reception here. This very unique. This is what I said to Hannah. I said there's a very unique gaslighting that happens in the Berks County area, and I just want to get your take on it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Vincent looks like one of the gentlemen from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so
Actually, I
go
believe
fuck yourself, Vincent White.
I believe one of the gentlemen was actually the voice actor for Krieger.
You're right. Well, Vincent White either looks like that or Voldemort. And apparently the only part of Reading he's ever been at is the pagoda. So naturally, yeah.
That's my Voldemort face.
Anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. Well, first, like, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, they're just gonna go get high and commit sexual assaults. Like, literally, I always think back to Mallory in that episode. It was like
shooting up the jobs.
They're gonna ride around listening to the raps and shooting all the jobs.
Yeah.
And that's literally like what I think of these types of people. It's like you clearly have no nuanced approach or take on it. You also don't give a shit enough to propose anything that's actually going to help the homelessness issue and unhoused youth. So it's not so at least our friend Debbie here attempted to give a solution to the problem, even though it already exists and it's existed for as long as my mom has been in school. So that's cool.
Yeah.
So she's
really
she's like
half thinking there.
She's half a decade, or she's half a century late on that one. But you know, Debbie, you do you, Debbie. You really do. Police, I don't know. We've had police officers in the school at least as long as we've been there. So I just clearly these people have never stepped foot inside of Reading High School. I don't know if they've stepped foot inside of Reading outside of the stretch between Santander and the bridge going over to Penn Ave.
And that's true.
Like,
I was gonna say
they may not have gone off of that strip at all, except they would go to Jimmy's.
Only probably to come in and watch Lonnie play, but you're right, probably only to watch Lonnie play while on Santander.
Right.
And you said it earlier too, right? I think the most important thing to remember here is we saw all these nasty comments, and this is about not only kids experiencing homelessness, and like that was the disgusting element of it, because it was even going on like terms of just the lack of remorse or understanding of the issue too. It was just like, well, why don't they just go with this program? It's like, because that program doesn't serve youth.
Yeah. And also the thing that really pissed me off about our friend Voldemort here is the immediate assumption that if you're homeless, it's because you're an illegal immigrant. It's just like,
the majority of the homeless people that I see in Philadelphia are white.
Yeah. Homelessness knows no bounds, and it can affect literally anybody. So it just so happens that the systems are set up to the point where it's going to disproportionately affect a certain group of people, but it can affect anybody.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's really disgusting to see those types of comments. WFMZ, I'm not surprised.
Right.
Because they're probably, you know, they're probably messaging from their, mansion in West Lawn or
Right. YO.
YO,
Shelton.
yeah.
Um, so I think, there isn't actually much to talk about this conversation, but I think I wanted to bring up and drive home one point. There are ways to donate. If you go onto the Reading School District page, there are a lot of ways to get involved. Um, I'm sure I shared, if not on the show, very personally with you, that homelessness is one of those things that really affect me mentally. It's just one of those things that I think about often. I will stay up at night thinking about, obviously, on my commute to work and back. It's just a pressing issue. Something that I've always, even as a kid, had a deep confusion about how a country that is supposed to be so great can allow something like this to be such a big issue. And so, what I am hoping to do with the show in some capacities was always, and even with like brewing going forward, is there's obviously always going to be a philanthropic element to it. We have given to a couple of different organizations in the past. This initiative and this particular issue, I think, is the next thing that we figure out something for. I think that is what we really should kind of just put off to the side
Yeah.
as the nonprofit thing that we would raise money for until something else happens. Hopefully this has a lasting effect, and maybe this is the only thing that we really focus on for a while. But I think this hits home for all of us that are involved with the podcast, and I think it's a great cause. I think it's something that needs to be protected. I think the people, here's the last point. The assumption that this is a place that people are going to want to abuse and take advantage of, I think people truly don't have an understanding of what it is to be a kid anymore then, because this isn't a area that people are going to want to celebrate having to use. This isn't a place that people are going to want to, brag about. This is going to be a place that other kids use to make fun of other people. Oh yeah, that's why you stayed at the Knight's Keep, right? This isn't something that that a
Mean
lot of these
Girls
people are trying
element
to.
still is there.
Yeah, this is going to be valuable. This is something that needs to be protected, and especially the kids that are a part of this, that need to use this resource, that they are going to need extra protection. I feel they are going to need to feel safe. The benefit here is they are going to feel much more comfortable in school, much more confident, and it's going to allow them to believe that they should exist in places much higher. And
Yes.
I just think, never have I ever seen something more, deserving of protection.
Yeah. I 100% agree. This is, I think, this is probably the most like exciting and revolutionary thing that it's not revolutionary, I guess. Absolutely. But like for the Reading area, like for Reading School District, like this is a very, very big deal. That they came up with this, that they're doing it, that they're putting their resources behind it. And I just really hope that we're able to keep up with it and give it the necessary like attention and support that it needs to succeed, and that the kids have an opportunity and the resources, not just for it to be an open area, because being an open area is great for them to be able to go and have something more comfortable, but it should also be an area for them to be able to get that support. So it's one of those things. It's like, ideally, yes, you want people there supporting these kids. It's a difficult thing to be homeless and also still be a child. And we've seen and heard of a lot of people that have to become adults very early on because of these difficult situations. And so we really need that support there. And they need our support to let this happen. And to your point, like it will be something no one wants to admit to having free lunch, or even like back in our day, like you had full price, reduced price, free lunch, like getting the free lunch or getting the different programs and assistances based on your economic status. Those aren't things that kids openly abuse.
Right.
I can't think of one example where a kid would even like really have the context to abuse something like that. Really, it's just like this is what it is. This is the situation. And someone who would do that is like 1 in 1,000 type of deal. Like it's not going to be the norm. It's not going to be the vast majority of these kids. Um, so I say all that to say, like you're right. Like this is something that needs to be protected, and it's something that does need the due attention to succeed. And I really hope that the district really does, lean into this, not just, hey, it's open, let's lean into it, let's give it the proper attention and the proper resources so that these kids can succeed. It does affect your performance in class to go in there and not have to worry about kind of like your social status based on the fact that you're homeless or you smell or you're not wearing new clothes or clean clothes. You know what I mean? Like that does really affect kids. These are kids. It does affect their ability to clear all that out and just focus on education and building social relationships. So this is very important to think back to when we were in high school and kind of the things that we thought were important. You know, if you come at it with that context, like look back when you were 16, what did you really care about? Okay, let's make sure these things are aided and protected. So it is a big deal. You bring up a great point. So it's important that we support them in that sense. So I really hope that this gets all the attention it deserves and it really succeeds.
Yeah. And with that, we'll be back in like 2 weeks. 2 weeks, man. Um, but hopefully, very soon we'll be having some sort of way that you guys can give back as well if you don't decide to just give to it straight up. So until next time.
Peace.